everyone. Welcome to Confidently Be You. My name is Jennifer Shlomovich, and today my special guest is Xiao-Yu Cheng, who was also my guest a few weeks ago. Xiao-Yu is originally from China and is now living in Germany. As a self-employed professional for over a decade, her work between three different continents, which include North America, Europe, and Asia, has always been about connecting people and building communication across different cultures and industries. Each step in her career path has brought her to where she is today as a leadership and intercultural transition coach and business consultant. In our previous interview together, we had a great conversation about financial confidence. This time, Xiao-Yu has returned to talk about financial planning for business owners. Xiao-Yu, welcome. Welcome
Thank
back.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here again.
Yeah, I enjoyed our last conversation. It was really, really informative. And so I'm really excited to dive deeper in the topic of business because, that's a whole other separate topic.
Yeah, yeah.
So before we get started, can you share a little bit about what inspired you to get into the work that you do?
Yeah, sure. So I work as coach and consultant. So before I work as a coach, I actually I'm from consulting and marketing background. But really come to now when I look back, all my work are always related to people, to help people to communicate, to build the network, and also bringing people together to get a business done. Because you were saying earlier, like we talk about finance confidence, right? Financial confidence and come to business is another story. But sometimes it's the same because all the business are built and done by people.
Mm-hmm.
It's about one people business or a small business or an international big corporate with hundreds, thousands of people, right? So that's one of my passion. And also my top value is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And when I discovered about coaching, I was like, interesting, because this is the work I got to work with people. And this work is all about empower people to achieve their success by their own definition and to achieve the freedom that allow them to create or to achieve whatever they want to have in their work or life. So I was thinking, perfect. That sounds like a perfect to me. So it's been quite a journey, like so far so good. And I really enjoy working it, especially to be able to give like a both option, a consultant and a coach. It really depends on which stage the client is and where they are or what they're looking for in this moment. So now I can share both of these two different kind of perspectives or aspects to be there to be a support to my people, my clients. Yeah.
That's great that you have those different ways to meet people where they're at because everyone's at different phases. And as you move along with your business, you enter different phases and what you need.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, one of the scariest things I think, and I've had this conversation with other business owners, is that fear of it's easier to work for other people than what it is to work for yourself. And so it can be scary when you're putting yourself out there. And so there's a lot of those beliefs and other things that can create challenges and that impact confidence. And some of that, we talk a little bit about that financial confidence in our previous discussion, which I'm going to include in the notes below this video. So if you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend checking it out. So let's get started. So Xiao-Yu, why is financial planning important, even for a one-person business?
Yeah, even one person business, because still it is a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, how the confidence is important for us. And last time we had a really great conversation, talk about financial confidence. Oh, to some people it's about financial freedom, and to some people it's about the financial security. And when we talk about all these feelings we have around the finance situation, they really based on the clarity of your financial situation, right? Where you were with your finance, where you are now, where you want to be, and how can you get there?
Yeah.
Right. And because financial planning is like a full circle, sometimes I explain, because you review the past like anything, we tried out something, you review the past, oh, what you did great, you want to continue, what you did wrong, or something you can improve, you analyze that, and then you make a budget and you foresee the future and you put it into action. And then next year or next financial circle, you look back again, right? Because with that, you have a really clear picture of those, even with one person business. And then you can set yourself free to continue build whatever your dream business. Or you don't have to feel like restrained by the finance piece when you try to do something big, or when you try to follow your intuition, follow your heart, or when you try to scale up your business. But you already know, okay, my finance here is like this. So what can I do? And what I want to do, right? And sometimes the thing is with financial planning, same with many other things like education or like career or like a life decision. Many times how we sold, we know what we want to do is actually so told by the society, right? Same with financial planning. People say, you define your business with how many figures. That's financial planning. And maybe then you only focus on the sales number. But how about marketing? How about social contribution, right? So many times it's really about when you look at financial planning, we look at the numbers, but also look at many other aspects. Yeah. So I think especially when we talk about business, because business is more than number. Yeah.
I like what you said about it being full circle because it's so important to review. You're going to go through these different stages of, like you were saying, where you are now, where you want to go, taking the action to get you to where you want to go. But then because everything is always evolving and changing, it's so important to review your numbers, at least I'm guessing like once a year, right? To review your budget, like at least once a year.
I guess depends on your business, the nature of your business, and also depends on the size, and also depends on how you made the financial plan. Because maybe for some people, for example, you have a coaching program, which is a 3 month program. So maybe you also want to do a seasonal review, right? Or for example, right, you have some business very long term. So aside from the annual review, like you said, that's usually how people do. And you can also do a long term, like every 3 years you do a review, and every 5 years you do a review.
That's a good point. And then probably, as like you said, if you have like a 3 month program, maybe even a quarterly review, because to see, I did, this 3 months, this is how I did. Let's see how I do the next 3 months. And then you kind of can compare what's working and what's not working, reviewing it as well. So it sounds like there's different categories of reviewing, but it is very important. I've learned the hard way to, like, creating a business. I just kind of threw myself into it and figured it out as I went along.
Yeah, you learn it on the way. So
what's that?
I think you just learn it on the way in the journey. So
yeah, exactly. It's definitely, I've learned a lot about what not to do. And through all of that, I've been learning more about what to do. And I think also the biggest challenge is you're told you need this, you need that. There's a lot of oversaturation of information on the internet about what you need as a business and how to market your business. It can be very overwhelming. And it's what we were talking about before in our last conversation that we did is, defining your success and doing what feels good to you, and that freedom. What feels like freedom to you may not be freedom to somebody else, or what, works for you may not work for somebody else. And I've tried like certain marketing programs that didn't work for me. And I used to feel like there was something wrong with me because I followed this advice and it didn't work. But not everything, but then you realize what doesn't work for you, and then you're able to implement the things that do work for you. And so it's I used to think money was very complicated, and it can still be a very intimidating topic for me. But when you break it down simply, like we did in our last conversation and what we're doing today, is just knowing the basics of what you need and having that budget, and just checking in is so important, because when you don't check in to see how things are going, that's when a lot of mishaps can happen. A lot of lost money can happen along the way. Um, so, which brings me to my next question is how to set financial goals. So, what are some tips for a first-time financial planner?
Mm. I prepared coming today. So I do have like a few tips I want to, share with you and the audience.
Awesome.
Before we get started, actually I want to play a little game with you
Okay,
today.
I
Okay,
this will be a
ready?
first on here. It's playing a game, so I'm game for the game.
And for sure when people watch the recording, they can also play along.
Okay,
Um,
great.
for the next 5 seconds, you just look around in your room or your surrounding. Anything, look for anything red colored for 5 seconds.
Red color. Okay.
Good. Now you come back and tell me anything you saw earlier is blue colored. Don't shit. I see your eyeball is moving.
I think there was some blue. So to share with you, I have a mug that has like flowers on it. So there was a
Mm.
red flower on there. I think there was a blue flower on it. But I can show the we can see in a moment, but I think there was a blue flower on there, but now I can't remember.
Mm. Yeah. So so that's the game, right? So it's like it was interesting because actually when you look around, you were looking at everything, but
Mm-hmm.
you were mainly searching for the red color thing, right? And then when I asked you the blue one, but I think it's still a tap on your shoulder, virtual tap. You did good job. Still, you got a little bit blurred memory, like what something blue. But for many cases, it's because when we search for something, we tend to focus on those. We tend to paying all our attention to that,
Mm-hmm.
which means sometimes we may miss out something else, right? And with that, also come to the financial planning is the same. The question or the way I want to start with the first tip today is about when you start doing your financial planning, what are you looking at
Mm-hmm.
or what are you searching for? Let me share the screen quickly.
Okay. Yeah, let's it's you know what, there is a blue flower. This is my mug.
Okay. Yeah,
But
plenty
I
color.
couldn't remember. All I could remember was I remembered a red one and a yellow one, but I couldn't quite because I was so fixated on finding the red one.
Mm. See? Yeah, I mean, still the good thing is about like a concentration, but also about what you miss out because sometimes in this moment you saw the red color is important, right? Because
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
game. But is that really how true is that? That's always the question, powerful question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so bring back to the financial planning, it's about are you looking at the cost or expenses? Like imagine when people do financial planning or when they make a decision, business decision. Some people they always look at how much money they need to spend. Okay, I want to hire a contractor to have to delegate some task, but they'll say, oh, how much I need to pay that person,
Mm-hmm.
and they may slow down that decision or maybe they hold back, right? Oh, some people focus on the revenue or income. People say, okay, I set my price super high because I want to have 6 7 figure business, but they don't really doing their focus on their budget so that they don't realize how much money they need to invest to in order to reach that number. Or some people focus on the profit, right? The bank, the gain and the loss. And my tip here, my suggestion here is actually look at all of them. I'll share more later. But it's
Mm-hmm.
really like when we do coaching, we say holistic coaching, right? We coach the whole person. And same
Right.
with financial planning, right? Because we do the whole financial planning, because these 3 parts that are the key parts in financial planning. They impact each other, they are related to each other, and sometimes they leverage each other. So when you're only paying attention to one or two of them, that's the time when you start having this imbalance. Like you
Mm-hmm.
say, through the period of time, you may don't realize how much money you are losing, or maybe you don't realize how many opportunities could make more money or could reach more success you are missing out. Yeah.
I really like this. This is a great visual to give perspective to it, and it's fun. A fun way to talk about finances. But I like what you said about holistically, would you say it was a holistic
Financial
financial
planning.
planning? Yeah, holistic financial planning. Because when you think of holistically, usually you think about health and the body, and this is about financial health. And it's so important to have that whole picture, like you said, to create balance with anything in life. And I really like that holistic approach to finances because you don't normally think about that. Or at least I haven't heard that too often in regards to finances. So I think that's really a great point to bring up, and how it's important to focus on all these different areas, because otherwise you focus solely on one and then everything is just going to sink
Mhm.
eventually if you don't, or
Yeah,
something's going to sink and not do well if you don't pay attention to it.
yeah. And that's also why I bring this up the first, because this one is really set the, like you said, the financial house, but like really set the foundation
Mm-hmm.
for whatever you are going to continue put in your financial plan. Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Mm. And the next one here. And no worries, I know earlier you were saying when thinking about all those financial plan, it's like overwhelming, too many new knowledge, right? Especially
Right.
for new financial planner or new business owner, people who transit from full-time job or something. I'm not giving the whole crash course here about the financial statement. It's just I want to use the balance sheet because it is one of the financial statements, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's also the one very easy to use. Really, you can just open a spreadsheet like anyone, and you can just understand the logic, the relationship, and then you can put in the numbers and you can see a result. Even starting with this could be very simple, so it's something not so overwhelming. And today especially I want to use the balance sheet to kind of explain some concept or some terms.
Okay.
um, so like we all know, in the balance sheet we have the left and the right side. The left is the assets. So the assets is like what you possess, what you have, what you own, your
Mm-hmm.
saving, your property, your income, your salary, right? And it's like the green numbers in your bank account,
Right.
right?
The
And
good
the
numbers.
yeah, the bigger the better. And the other side is the liability, like what
Mm-hmm.
you need to pay, what you the cost, the expenses, right? The rent you pay, the internet you pay for, if you hire a contractor, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those. And when we talk about financial planning, many times people think about these two number, and the people use them, the ROI, the return on investment, for financial decision, right? Or people say, okay, what's the number? So basically, it's like the asset minus the liability. That number there is the one many times people looking at. So
Mm-hmm.
here I would do like a quick math here, as you see. So let's say if we have 100 assets, 90 liability, so you have 10 like the profit. And some other case could be you have 50 assets, 30 liability, you have 20 profit.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is like a bigger size business, right? But actually the profit is smaller than the second one,
I see. Yeah, that's a very good point.
right?
And I like this that this is a simple visual because first of all, I like simple.
Yeah.
And it just breaks it down easily because am I seeing this, then you can then go and look at your business and apply the same type of logic to what's going on with your business.
Yeah, yeah. And with the number, because this one I use a simple number, but when it comes to business, you have different things. But then bring back to the first tip, we talk about which glasses, right? You are
Right.
focused on which number you are focused on, because for example, if someone say in this moment my main goal is to have higher, bigger profit, then the second one's a better situation. But if someone say I'm building a sustainable business, I want to build this business into a legend. I want to have long-term development. So
Mm-hmm.
actually maybe the first business, although for this year or this number, it looks like profit small, but maybe it's building a very solid foundation to prepare for the future scaling up, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's like we said again, it's not about to look at each number, it's really look at the relationship between them, and also to get the clarity what's more important for you in this moment and what's important for you for longer period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, these are all very important things to think about. And again, I like this simple example. And it sounds like, it's getting clear on what your goals are, what it is you want, not the things you think you should want, or because I feel like
Mm.
that can be also like in the beginning as a business owner, there's a lot of programs out there where it's like make six figures and maybe that's a great goal to have, but maybe that might not be a reasonable goal to have in the beginning, maybe the first year of your business, first couple of years, it might take some time. But having good financial habits, even if
Mm.
you're starting off small, I think that's where it's going to build from there. And it's just getting comfortable with having those good financial habits.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely look at the numbers, and there are much more stories to tell behind the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's the first one. And the second concept or the tip I want to talk about is to have this. Actually, you just mentioned something for long term, something for short term. The concept about long term or short term,
Mm-hmm.
because depends on what we are looking at. Sometimes it makes sense to look at bigger picture or longer term. Sometimes it's easier when you break things into little pieces or short term. So I make some few quick examples, especially with like small business or when people starting their own business as a freelancer or self-employed. So when we're building something new or when we transit into this new career or the new business, there's always this learning curves, and there's
Right.
always the need of expanding, building your network, right? Because no matter what you do, what business, what kind of service, product, uh, you need to have your circle, right? And you spread the word out to our audience. But all this kind of thing, it takes time, and it's all about the consistency,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like there's no this kind of guarantee for overnight results. Like I make one post on LinkedIn, tomorrow I have 10 people line up to hire me as a coach,
Right.
right? It may happen, like maybe it happen one video go viral, that could happen. That'll be nice, but usually this kind of thing is about you build on your reputation, your network, and slowly. So when we think about those kind of things, when we put in the budget or when we put in the financial planning, we want to have a longer period of time evaluation or
Mm-hmm.
budgeting for that, because it does need time to tell the result, right?
Yeah.
And
And oh, sorry. Yeah.
go ahead.
No, it's just I sorry, I thought you were done there for a second. Yeah, so it makes sense. Yeah, you need those short-term goals to achieve those long-term goals. It's like they're stepping stones that,
Yeah.
you need those small steps that eventually lead to that larger outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah, and for sure you can always have quantity with all those, like how many people you reach out, how many posts, and you can analyze all those numbers and how it really transfer into like a business, like a paid client or purchase of a product, those kind of thing. Um, mm, and also the other thing sometimes people don't realize is when we do this kind of thing in long term, there's another one is your branding value.
Mm-hmm.
Like for one person business, sometimes we say, because my small business doesn't matter. But actually personal branding also important. And to come through, it builds through your networking and your marketing effort. Yeah, because one day, maybe one person business today, one day will become like a public company. And that brand you build from day one can also have a value with a number. Yeah.
Absolutely. Consistency, I think, is definitely the hardest thing, especially in the beginning,
Yeah.
because you're not getting the results you want right away. You're not, like you said, it's very rare that you're going to get, 10 clients signing up from the very first post. You have to show up consistently and post things, and if you don't, yeah, it's going to be hard to build that momentum. And then also just the other thing I want to bring out about that is perfectionism. Like, feeling like, oh, I'm not ready to post this, or I have to be perfect in order to post this. And I used to struggle with that in the beginning, but you just got to show up and focus on sharing value. As long as you're sharing value with somebody, it doesn't have to be perfect. And everyone has a different definition of what, perfect
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that consistency piece is just so very, 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 very important.
Yeah. And sometimes I guess if you have the long-term goal, like you said, it doesn't make sense to say I make one post in 1 week, I have 10 clients. But you can say, okay, 1 month, through 1 month consistent marketing effort, how many clients or how much income I'm expecting,
Right.
right? Or 1 year or 3 months or 6 months. Because when you have that number or when you have that goal there, it's like a motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
And like you said,
yeah.
so yeah, so you can stay consistent. Yeah. But you were definitely right. Sometimes, especially starting out, it is, yeah, challenging, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And the other example I wanted to talk about is like the other way around, the
Mm-hmm.
short-term one. Like,
Okay.
when you want to invest something, you want to sign up a training course, or you want to buy a new laptop, or you want to rent a new store for your product to sell your product. The big number is always scary, right? But when you cut into smaller pieces, it will become more manageable or durable. For example, maybe they have like installation, or maybe you can, have different kind of resources to get the money to pay the same. Because the moment you're not afraid of the big number, you start become creative.
Yeah, that's
And you
a
find
good point.
solutions. Yeah, because a true story, I was talking to one IPAC peer. She graduated from IPAC, and she's funny because she was saying, I talked to the IPAC team, and I just fell in love right away. And then I said, okay, sum it up. And then she said, then I realized I don't have money for that course. She's really very passionate person. I don't realize I don't have that, but I really want to do it. So she checked all her savings, and she borrowed some money from friends. And she said, then I made it. Because the very first place, she even didn't think about number. And then when she has a number, but she's not let it scare her away. So she said, okay, so actually, I use the saving and I save some money, and later, how can I pay my friends back? Yeah. So
Yeah,
so
that's true.
sometimes,
Being
right.
creative finding creative ways to create that to happen.
Yeah. 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 Because in other words, it's about you don't like the big thing holding you back from moving forward. Right. But sometimes it's just like the hesitation. Yeah. Spend lots of time and effort. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up because that's true. Sometimes something might feel impossible, but then if you take a moment and you take a bird's eye view, well, what are other ways that I can pay for this? And also focusing on what will that give you? Once you invest in this, what will you be able to do after that investment? So also not just looking at what it's going to cost to pay for something, but also what is this thing going to give you back?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So see, actually you are looking at the three aspects: the income, you invest in something, how it's going to bring to you. So you are not only looking at the cost and expense part, the game we play in the beginning. My little game.
I like though. This is great though. This breaks things down in a much more simple and fun way because business and finance usually is not very fun.
Yeah, but if you think about what you can do with your business,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and really always ask yourself or remind yourself why you want to stepping into this, journey to have your own business, right? So that will
Yeah,
be the answer. Yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
So and move on to the next one, tangible and intangible. So depends on what you do, what kind of service you do. There could be different things to go in assets or liability. But today I really want to talk about the time,
Hmm.
which is I think sometimes people don't realize as a small business owner or generally a business owner, freelancer, self-employed, your time is your biggest asset because you have more voice, you have more control of your time, right? You can decide at what time, generally, like at what time you want to do something and how much time you want to invest in what, right? So that's the thing. And also, the thing is when you work in a full-time job or when you have like a part-time job paid by hour, it's easy to calculate.
Right.
about salary, you divide it into how many hours, right? It's easy. But when it's come to freelancer or work for yourself, business owner, sometimes the thing is the time, the personal and the professional time become blurred.
Yeah.
It also happens nowadays when people work virtually, right? People work from home nowadays. There have been topic around this also, like how you set the boundary, right? The switch off time, family time. And when you work on your work, how can you fully concentrate on your work? Because that's also about like the time, and because the time is fair to everyone. We all have 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because some people take it for granted and some people feel like and they never have enough time. Right. And so when it's come to the financial planning, the time, my suggestion here is from the very beginning, when you start out, have your own business, to block the tangible hours with numbers, tangible hours in your schedule, and then put it into your financial planning as the asset or liability. So for example, I invest because sometimes you say, oh, I spend 10 hours read a book. You prepare yourself, right, for your career, for your business. But actually that hours you spend, although for now it doesn't bring in any direct income, but it is building you for the future.
Right.
Better future, better version of you. So you can serve your clients or you can support your clients who will pay you maybe a higher price, right? Or maybe you can sell a bigger quantity of your service, of your product. So how can you transfer, how can you put a number of the value of your time into your financial planning? Because that's the same many times, especially when you're starting out with your business. If you imagine you have, like you said, have so many things online, so many courses, so many marketing planning strategy you need to do. All those times you feel like you don't get paid because you're not working for a company, right?
Yeah, that is very challenging to figure out, what do you charge for your product or service? And you don't
Mm.
think about time or, I know for me, like I didn't think about the time so much until I started realizing, oh, I got to work on this. Because, as a one person business owner, you do everything and then you have all these other things. And
Yeah.
you don't think about time as being an asset, but it's true. It's a very important asset. It's something I've been being more intentional with the since this year, where I've really, since January, really become intentional because I work a day job during the day.
Yeah.
And so the only time I can do things for my business is after work hours. But then I also have my family and I have all these other things, gotta cook
Yeah.
and do all these other types of things. So it's being really intentional that time. So there's like, usually Tuesdays and Wednesdays, like evenings is when I spend at least 2 hours a night, sometimes 3 hours doing something, working on my business. And then anything outside of that is like
Yeah.
bonus things that I can, but as long as I show up consistently during those 2 days, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, it's been much more helpful when I wasn't putting that specific time on the calendar. I've realized that if I don't put it on my calendar, it's going to get lost.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Like I'll think about it, but it's so much
Yeah.
more helpful to do that. In fact, I was speaking to someone earlier today about this. Even if you just want that like time for yourself, to
Mm.
like I try to have at least 30 minutes of self-care, doing nothing but something just for me, at least 30 minutes. Maybe on a weekend I can give myself a little bit of more time, but if you feel like you don't have time for yourself, it's very stressful. And so, but by putting it on your calendar, me time,
Yeah.
even for 30 minutes, then it's more apt to happen because you put it there. And so going back to what you were saying about time as an asset, it's so important to put those things on your calendar because it creates that visual. I think visuals are very helpful. Like I like these slides that you're showing because it's
Yeah.
creating that visual of
Yeah.
these different concepts. And so when we have a calendar and we block out specific chunks of time for different things, it helps
Yeah.
manage that time as well.
Yeah. It's like the accountability, right? So your calendar is your accountability partner, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So because talking about that, your me time. So because still when you have the me time, that's the time you are spending on self-care, relaxing, right? Which means that half an hour time or no matter 1 hour, 2 hours, you are not making income.
Right.
So I'm curious, just like a quick quiz for you. So which side on the balance sheet you are going to put if you put the me time on, you want to put it under the asset or the liability?
Haha, that's a good question. Well, I look at it as an asset only because if I get burnt out, then that's when I start to struggle with my work and
Yeah.
I get burnt out, and especially a lot of my work is creating content. It's very hard to be creative if you're tired and burnt out. So
Mm,
I would put it on the asset sheet only because I know it helps me show up and do my work better. But I'm
yeah.
curious what your answer would be for it.
Mm, I think I probably took the time under the liability, but I
Okay.
will add in something else under the assets, like
Okay.
you said, mental health. And also actually I also put it under the assets as the prevention for wasting of more time. Like you said, if you got burned out or simply you just feel a bit overwhelmed or just physically tired, you can't do
Hmm.
your work. And then you need to spend more time in order to finish your work, right? So by spending 30 minutes time, probably you are winning much more time on the asset side. Yeah.
I like looking at it. Yeah, yeah, I agree because I used to. This is something I've worked very hard on myself, especially in 2020 when everything was new, being at home all the
Mhm.
time for everything. It was I felt compelled to just constantly do,
Yeah.
and you have to create those boundaries with your home space. So I'm work from home. I do my business from home, and then and then your family's at home. So it's where do you create that time? So the calendar helps me, and
Yeah.
then I have a different setup where I work in my room, and then in terms of my business stuff, I either work in my room or I work in the dining area. But because I'm in my room all day, um, I have to have things set up a little differently just so I don't feel like I'm in the same space. So I might have
Mhm.
like I'll light candles, I'll do like some different little things, maybe play music, do something different to create a little different atmosphere.
Yeah.
But it's so important to create that space to set those boundaries with your time and your space, because otherwise you're not going to feel inspired, you're not going to want to be consistent, you're going to be burnt out, and then nothing's going to happen the way you would like it to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely agree. Yeah. And interesting because you say light up some candles, so have different vibes. Yeah. Yeah. Because for me, the same. I always work in this room. And when
Mhm.
I want to have my personal me time or something, I go to the living room. So it's like just close the door, everything leave behind that door. The work.
So
Yeah.
important to do.
Yeah, you bet. Cool. And the next one, which is also the last one, is about the risk management.
Hmm.
Mm. So especially like you said, when people starting their own business, many times people don't realize, or they realize in the beginning, everything come back to you, right? From very big thing to very small thing. It's always come back to you to make the final decision. Even you have money to hire someone, you say you hire a tax advisor, still you need to provide them the numbers, right? You need to give them the receipts. Or you hire someone to help with sending emails, so still you need to overlook those kind of things. So it's important to have this mindset. Like I always say all this year, I always have this risk management in part of my head somewhere. It's about being cautious, but it's also about prepare for the future. Because when you don't need to worry about the risk, you have your safety net. So
Yeah.
you can, again, make the big leap towards whatever you want to pursue, right? And for sure, the risk management, when it's come to balance sheet, or like sometimes the risk prevention, you need to invest in those. Or sometimes it's about your financial situation, could we become your risk. Like sometimes people try to do something big, they, right, for example, they borrow a very big amount of loan from the bank, right? So what's your solution if the
Right.
business don't turn out in the way that you expected, right? Or sometimes because I want to try out a new project, a new product, a new dimension of my business, do you have the financial support behind it? If it doesn't turn on the way, do you have like an emergency fund? Like me, I always have this part of saving in my bank account. I never touch, because that's for the really last minute emergency. So when we think about this, is really about, I would say the tip is start from the very beginning to have this, to think about the financial risk and what could be avoidable, what could be manageable, and sometimes how could be the financial planning become one of the solution for some crisis or unexpected scenarios that happen in your business, even you are one person business. Because even sometimes the things, one person business maybe is small, people think some won't be something very big happen, but sometimes also one person business could be very fragile, right? Like
Yeah.
if you have something like in Germany, we have insurance for everything. You know, even like you work as a freelancer, you have insurance for business accident or this and that, all those kind of things. So you can see how much money you need to invest. For example, insurance, how much you pay in there. That's the thing you want to include in the budget. It's not some money you want to save from the beginning to say, order, I want to have a little bit more money, but that's the money you want to invest. Yeah. So the risk part is also, like you said, a habit you want to build from day one.
Very good point, because you don't normally think about the risk management piece in depth. You're just focusing on, okay, this is what I want to make, this is what to spend on. But like you're saying, like those emergencies and just investing in certain things like the insurance to protect you, because again, that's an investment that, yeah, you're investing money, but it's so important to do that because it could cost you more money down the
Yeah.
line if you're not prepared. Yeah, these are really great tips. And what are some tips that you could share just on what to charge for a product or service that you're
Mm.
working on?
Yeah, I know the question is coming because we need to talk about the number, right?
Yeah.
Like after talking all these, what's the number you want to put in your proposal, or you want to charge your clients? Still, I would say before we go to the number, there are a few things, like a few channels to help us prepare for come up the number. The first thing is product design, like what you sell.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I always say start with what you love to do and what you're good at doing. And these two things, the combination, the overlap between them, the integration of them, that's the thing. You want to pack them into a product. And you also want to decide how you deliver to the client. Because it sounds like very serious things. But for example, I do coaching, right? So I said, okay, I have my coaching package, 3 months program, 12 sessions. And if I decide to do that in-person coaching and virtual coaching, then I will decide how I promote, how I do my marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I will decide what's my time cost for traveling if I meet clients in person. Because if usually I in-person coaching, it will be more expensive. Or if I need to go to other country or other city outside here,
Right.
actually clients pay for the travel expenses, and also they pay for the travel time, which means your price will go up. And will that still affordable or accessible for clients? So these are the thing about the product design. So you have the structure, the framework first. And then the second thing you want to prepare is to think about your target clients. Like a tool I always like to share is the client avatar. You can always find on Google. So it's really help you to understand your target clients. And part of it is also understand what's the consumption capability, the income level. This group of people you want to work with, you want to sell to, usually will be the range of the price acceptable or desirable for them. right?
Yeah, that
Oh,
makes
what's
sense.
yeah, or what's their purchase habit, all those kind of thing. And the next one is market research to know about your industry. What's the average pricing, right? Maybe you check some store, you check other people's website, that industry research, white paper stuff. Because sometimes like nowadays, I also heard there are like programs, for example, they call that intuitive pricing. Like basically for people starting out, you just tell people whatever you want to charge.
I'm
Maybe,
noticing that more. I've seen, yeah,
yeah,
I'm noticing that's coming up more. People are
yeah,
offering that.
yeah. I would say it's really nice, really beautiful. We follow our heart, right? Because that's the intuition. But still, the market research, the industry price, it doesn't mean you have to follow that price, but it could be used as a benchmark, as
Right.
a measurement. So if you know what's the industry price, you can still choose to go higher or lower, or you fall in that range. It's different from you just close your eyes, you say a number without knowing what's going
Right.
on around you. You know, these two are different. They are both follow intuition. So that's the third thing. I think the preparation for the market to decide your price, and then with that three things, the information, you can decide your number, right? So how we come up with a specific number? The first question I always say is, how would you define, or what would be a number for you to reach your financial independence?
Hmm.
In other words, it's how much money you need. It's not
Right.
about how much money you want, because these are two different concepts. The need is like the basic need, right? I need to pay the bill. I
Right.
need to da da da. Because everyone got their different definition of number for the independence, financial independence. Because some people say I just need to break even so I keep the business running. Some people say I'm a provider. I need to support my whole family. Or some
Right.
people say I have a provider. I'm just doing this to be happy, right? Or some people say I have my goal. I want to, like, in 1 year, I want to buy a house with the income I got from this business. So that's the money you need. And you, with that number, you calculate a specific number for the financial independence. That's the first number. Oh, we can also call that the bottom line number, the minimum, right?
Hmm.
And then we come to the intuition pricing, follow your heart, is to ask yourself, okay, so you know the industry pricing, you know what you need, but how much you want, right? The hard question, how much you believe you deserve to be
And
paid.
and that's very hard to do, especially in the beginning. And I like how you brought up these different aspects to research where it's looking at the industry, looking at what's charged, and then looking at, well, what are the things that you need, not what you want. Because a lot of times you see, oh, make this amount of money so you can take your vacations, and
Yeah,
vacations are great, but like, what is it that you need to survive, to pay your bills? And that's the piece to focus on if you're building a business that you're planning on living off of. Or, if it's a part-time business, then you're going to have a different number than someone who's
yeah,
needing that full-time income from the business. And yeah, and then that I like what you're saying about following your heart. And you can change this too. This is something that I've learned over the years too, is you can, even if you charge on the low side, but that's what you're comfortable with, the more you start, again, charging consistently, showing up consistently, working with clients consistently, you're going to start to get more comfortable with pricing higher if you feel like you need to
mm,
charge higher for your services. Maybe you're working really, really hard and you're feeling stressed out because, hey, I'm not charging enough for this. But that's how you learn. And
yeah,
and so you can always make changes to your pricing anytime you want because you're in charge.
yeah, the both. Yeah, the definitely. Actually, that's also the thing I always share, is to go experiment with your
Yeah.
pricing strategy, because sometimes people have different layered pricing, right? Like for different kind of products or different kind of clients, different channels. Um, and then you get feedback. Like you say, you learn the things by doing. You get
Yeah.
feedback and then you adjust your price. And also the pricing is never fixed. Like you said, because with more and more practice, you are also becoming a better version of you. And the market, the general, for example, coaching, the industry is growing, right? And
Yeah.
also people, their opinion, how they see coaching is changing. So everything's evolving while the price is not evolving.
Yeah. And so your business is always going to evolve too. Like you don't have to stay the same. And a good benchmark to know when maybe it's time to challenge yourself in something is when something feels uncomfortable and then you start feeling extremely comfortable in it. And this is in any aspect of your business. Then you know, maybe there's something, then if you want to build and grow, then it's okay. What can I challenge myself to do now? Now that I'm, this one thing, it was uncomfortable. Now I'm really comfortable doing it. What's something else now that would help me grow and show up differently?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the very last thing is always give yourself a raise, because you don't have
That's
a
a good
boss.
tip.
If you don't give yourself a raise, no one's, maybe sometimes clients offer to pay more, but most time it's really, like I say, you never get it if until you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good
It's kind
point
of
because you don't think about that. That's a very good tip.
yeah. It's the most important one.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Yeah.
Xiao Yu, thank you so much for coming back and sharing some really great tips. I love how you break things down in a much more simple, easier to understand way. And I hope that everyone who's been watching will be inspired and feel a little more confident in navigating their finances. So thank you again for joining. And thank you also for watching. And if you did not see our interview from that I posted a few weeks ago, I will also include that in the show notes as well. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn, and also I have a website. So where you can know what kind of service or what kind of work I do. Yeah.
And you've been doing, I see you have a weekly, you do a weekly video, live video on LinkedIn too. That's really, really, it's called We Have a Saying in Chinese, correct?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really liked it. I watched it a couple weeks ago and I've been meaning to watch again. But it's very inspirational. Do you mind talking about it for a quick moment before we
Yeah.
log off?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a LinkedIn live streaming series. So every Thursday I come up live on LinkedIn, 5 p.m. Central Europe time. So the idea I started because actually last year I did a series of writing. So every week I share a post. And this year I have the live streaming access. The reason, the idea behind is I'm from China. I'm a Chinese, and we have this beautiful language and the culture. But sometimes because of the language barrier, people don't know about those. So I
Mhm.
thought, it could be nice to kind of share the thing. And also many times when I talk with people, I say, oh, we have a Chinese saying, da da da. It's interesting. Many are from like hundreds, thousands of years ago, but still they apply to nowadays,
Yeah.
to our work, to our life, the wisdom behind. So I thought, could be interesting, because once a week come in, share with people. And it's quite interesting because every time when I prepare, I also think more about
Mhm.
those and how interesting they apply to nowadays. And also through the series, actually I got connected with many like-minded people, people who just generally curious about different culture, different languages, etc. Yeah.
I
So
really enjoyed it. It's very inspirational. So I recommend everyone to check it out if you're on LinkedIn.
thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Xiao Yu, for joining. And thank you all. And take care. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.